What's up, everyone? We're going to be going through the best NBA player props on Prizepicks today. And I did want to show you the results from yesterday's picks from my exclusive Discord group. And as you guys see, we actually got 18 picks correct, which was absolutely insane. So we're on a huge hot streak. But if you want to get 18 picks right like me, win more bets, or receive the best picks from some of the best bettors in the world for less than a cup of coffee, you can access the exclusive Discord to meet some of the best sport bettors in the game by joining my Patreon, which should be linked down below in the description. Once you join, you'll have complete access to the Discord. I can start winning more bets today. So make sure to join my Patreon using the link in the description. And here's one of our members who just signed up and won himself $345 just yesterday. And another member who won $125 for the 6th day in a row since joining my Discord. So guys, if you want to win big money like our members here, the link will be in the description. So go join the Patreon to have access to the Discord group. And I will be continuing to upload every single day on this channel the best bets and props. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss my daily uploads. Also want to give a quick shout out to Chad Carter 3681 who said let's win. Shout out to Godson 9900 who said great read. And also shouts out to Kashawn Pierre 1471 who spammed up the love heart emoji, the fire emojis, and also the money bag emoji. So shouts out to them. And if you do want to win a shout out in the next video, all you have to do is comment down below in this video and like the video, and you can be in the running to win a shout out in the next one. Alright, so let's get straight into the first pick. And when it comes to these picks, I'm not saying to chuck all of them into a parlay and hope for the best. Pick and choose the ones that you like and the ones that work best for you. So the first pick we're talking about is none other than Ivisa Zubac, and this one is for 17 points, and this one actually is for less. Now, when we look at Ivisa Zubac, we've actually seen him go on the under in 2 out of the last 5 games, which is interesting to see. Now, they do face off against Golden State Warriors in this next matchup, but looking at the last 5 games first, we do see April 5th faced off against Dallas, only had 14 points there. Then faced off on April 6th against Dallas again on a back-to-back where he had 25 points. After that, San Antonio Spurs 24 points on April 9th. Then April 10th, Houston Rockets facing off against, and then 20 points there. And then 17 points, so had a push against Sacramento Kings on April 12th. So when it comes to Zubac, he has done a pretty decent job. He's gone on the under in 2 out of the last 5 games, with one of them being a push. And his average over the last 5 is 20. However, they do face off against none other than the Golden State Warriors. Now, this game is very important. Now, the reason why this game is so important, because some of the other games that are, like we all know, guys, this is the last day of the regular season, but a lot of these other teams have already solidified their spot in the playoffs, and there are only a couple of other teams that are still fighting for a spot. And those teams are LA Clippers and Golden State Warriors being one of the two. Now, when it comes to actually, both of these teams, LA Clippers do rank 5th in the actual Western Conference with a record of 49-32. On the other side of things, we also do see that the Golden State Warriors have a record of 48-33, so just one behind at the 6th spot. Now, the reason why this is so important is because Denver Nuggets, who also have the same record as Clippers, and Timberwolves, who also have the same record as, the Golden State Warriors, are 4 from 7th, pretty much the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. They all can be mixed up depending on how this game goes. If the Warriors win, they could see themselves solidify a playoff spot. If they lose and LA Clippers win, that also does mean that the Clippers are in the playoffs. But if Clippers lose, then we could also see them actually be in the play-in. So there's a lot of variety on where this game can go. So we are expecting both of these teams to play very hard. Now, looking at, Ivisa Zubac's matchup, which is the Golden State Warriors, when we look at where the Golden State Warriors rank when it comes to points allowed, the Golden State Warriors actually rank 5th when it comes to points allowed, which is a huge plus for us because we are liking the under for this one. Now, Golden State Warriors also do a fantastic job at restricting points to the big man position, especially the center, and that is exactly what Ivisa Zubac is. So that's a big reason why we do very much like the under for this situation here. It's kind of a no-brainer to us. Golden State Warriors have just done a fantastic job all season restricting points, and especially ever since acquiring a player like Jimmy Butler, we have seen them just do absolutely fantastic and probably will continue to do that, no doubt about it, coming into this game. So for that reason, we do very much like the under for Ivisa Zubac. So looking at Zubac over the last games against Golden State Warriors, we do see something pretty interesting. Now they played each other on the 27th of 2024, and he actually had 23 points in that matchup. Then faced off again against each other on the 18th of November, and Ivisa Zubac actually only had 8 points in that matchup, so we went under on that one. And then most recently played again on the 27th of December, where he actually had 17 points there. So we actually saw him push on that game, but overall we haven't really seen a convincing over for Zubac. Yes, he did get on the over in that first game, but second game he did go significantly on the under, and then the next game, or the most recent one, we actually saw him hit a push. So for that reason, we do still very much like the under for this situation here. We definitely see him going on the under due to the situation and due to the defense of this Warriors, and since there is a bit of magnitude with this game and how this game goes, we should see Ivisa Zubac go on the under for this one. So for that reason, Ivisa Zubac 17 points for less, I think, is a fantastic pick. Now getting into the next one, we're going to be talking about Michael Porter Jr. Now, as you all know, Michael Porter Jr., great player, and this one also is for points and also for 17, and also this one is for less. So pretty much an identical pick, different player, but Michael Porter Jr. or MPJ, we've seen him go on the under in 2 out of the last 5 games. Now looking at those last 5 games, on March 29th, they faced off against Utah Jazz, where he had 20 points there. Then on April 5th, faced off against the Golden State Warriors, where he had 23 points in that matchup. Then April 7th, faced off against Indiana Pacers, where he had 15 points. And then April 10th, faced off against Sacramento Kings, where he had 21 points there. Then April 12th, Memphis Grizzlies had 7 points in that matchup. Now, when we look at MPJ, we do very much like the under for this situation here. When we look at MPJ, they do face off, or the MPJ and Denver Nuggets faced off against the Houston Rockets. Now, when we look at the Houston Rockets and their matchup, it is going to be a very exciting matchup, no doubt about it. So looking at where both of these teams rank, we do see something pretty interesting. Now, starting off with the Denver Nuggets do actually rank 4th in the Western Conference. Now, we did touch on this briefly, but when we look at MPJ, we all do know that the Denver Nuggets are continuing to fight for a playoff spot. If they do lose this game, we actually could potentially see them end up in the play-in. So this is a very important game for them, which is why we are expecting, with this game, that both of these teams, well, specifically Denver, are going to really come out firing. So apologies, guys and girls, for the glitching with the prize picks. I don't really know what's happening, but it keeps kind of going away from the pick. But yeah, continue on from there. Denver Nuggets, they are going to be fighting for this game, and they are going to try to get the win as much as they can. Now, Houston Rockets on the other side are a little bit of a different story. Houston have already clinched and solidified their second place in the Western Conference with a record of 52-29. So this game is very interesting because, Houston Rockets, they don't need to really win this game. It doesn't really matter if they lose it. So because of that, we are expecting Houston Rockets to not really have the same amount of effort out there when it comes to this team. But either way, we still do like the under. And a big reason for this is that when we actually look at Houston Rockets, as we all know, Houston Rockets are a fantastic team, but on top of anything else, Houston Rockets, the reason why they have been able to do so well over the last season, especially, no one really expected them, but a big reason for that is due to the fact of their defense. Now when you look at their defense, they do rank 6th in points allowed, and that is a big sign on why we do very much like the under for this situation here. Now when it comes to someone like MPJ, we also have seen him have a little bit of a lower usage rate in some similar games when he does face off against tougher matchups, especially when they do tougher matchups against teams that don't really allow a lot of points. Now Houston Rockets also do a fantastic job at restricting points to the actual forward position, so for that reason we should see MPJ struggle coming into this game. Now looking at MPJ over the last games of facing off against Houston, now they were this year as well in this season, but we actually did see him have 8 points on their matchup on January 15th, and then 17 points on the 23rd of actually March. So interestingly enough there, when we look at both of those matchups, we do see MPJ had pushed on one of the matchups and then also going on the under. So not really convincing enough to us, which is why we do very much like the under for this situation here. And for someone like MPJ coming into this game, we should see other players like Jokic and others like Murray, if he does end up playing, having a little bit more usage rate, especially in this make or break game. So for that reason, we do very much like, the under for this situation for MPJ. We are expecting Houston as well to really slow down the pace. Houston are a very, very slow-paced team that definitely contributes to why they do such a great job at restricting points, rebounds, and assists overall. So we definitely see that affecting here. So for that reason, we are sticking to the under. When you look at what the bookies are saying, bookies also have a favor for the under as well. So MPJ, 17 points for less, I think is a fantastic pick. Now getting into the next one, we're going to be talking about none other than Norman Powell. Now, as you all know, Norman Powell, great player, and this one is for points as well, almost similar, but still a little bit higher at 18 points, and this one also is for less. Now, as you all know, guys, there is a reason why we are focusing on these two games, even though there is a lot of games, to finish off this season, and that is due to the fact that these teams are the ones that are going to continue to play until the end, due to the fact that they need to win this game. Now, looking at Norman Powell and also his points line, we actually have seen him go on the under in 4 out of the last 5 games. Now, looking at those 5 games, we've seen that on April 3rd, faced off against New Orleans Pelicans, where he had 11 points there. Then April 5th, faced off against Dallas, where he had 14 points. Then back-to-back had Dallas again. April 6th, faced off, and then he had 9 points in that matchup. Then 25 points against the San Antonio Spurs on April 9th, and then Kings on April 12th. He actually had, 16 points in that matchup. So because of that, we do very much like the under. He's going on the under in 4 out of the last 5 games, and we should see a similar outcome as his usage rate has definitely fallen quite a bit. Now, when it comes to, Norman Powell in general over the last 5 games, we have seen his average over the last 5 being only 15. So significantly below this line as well. So similar to what we said with Zubac, a big reason why we do very much like the under for this one is due to the fact that when you look at the Golden State Warriors, they do actually rank 5th when it comes to points allowed. So Golden State Warriors are a fantastic team when it comes to defending points and, also even rebounds and assists. Warriors have definitely increased their defensive efficiency out there as of lately, and it definitely will continue on into this next game. Like I briefly touched on as well, like I mentioned, both of these teams are fighting for a spot. Clippers can't afford to lose. Warriors can't afford to lose. But we are expecting Warriors defense to get the better of it due to the fact that they are a great defensive team. So when we look at Norman Powell against, the Warriors so far this season, now it does look like a little bit of a different story because we actually saw them play each other last year on the 27th where he had 20 points. Then faced off again on the 18th of November, we had 23 points. And then the 27th of December had 26 points. So we've actually seen Norman Powell do actually a pretty decent job. However, you do also have to realize that most of these games are pretty much without some of their star players in their matchup. Jimmy Butler also wasn't there just as of yet in most of these games. So that is a big reason. And although you may think, yes, Jimmy Butler is a great addition to this team, their defense has definitely shifted ever since he has joined this roster. And you can definitely see that in the numbers when you look at where they were before the All-Star break versus after, and they definitely have changed quite a bit. So we are expecting, this Golden State Warriors team to come out firing when it comes to the defensive line, and we should see them restrict Norman Powell as much as they can. A big reason for this as well is obviously Norman Powell isn't the star player for this LA Clippers team. There are players like Harden, like Kawhi. If they both end up playing, like I always mentioned, it is still game time decision. But, if they do end up playing, it's definitely going to have a huge effect on the outcome of Norman Powell's line and his usage rate. So we definitely see that affecting him, which is why we do like the under for this one. So when you look at what the bookies are saying, bookies also have him favored for the under as well. So guys, Norman Powell, 18 points for less, I think is a fantastic pick. Alright, so as you all know, I do want to get these picks out to you as soon as possible, but Prizepicks is delayed with some of their lines. So here are a couple of players you should definitely watch out for when their lines drop. So, as we mentioned before, obviously it is the last day of the regular season. So, there are a couple of players that are resting for some teams. So, we could see, some other players or key players have more usage rate out there and definitely have a different outcome. And one of those first players is Bronny James. Now, as you all know, Bronny James is a fantastic player for the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, he has done a fantastic job so far this season. Now, he's only averaging 2.2 points, 0.6 rebounds, 0.6 assists, and also 33.3% from the field. So he has done a fantastic job for this team. Now, although it isn't superstar type numbers, you do got to realize Bronny James isn't averaging that many minutes per game. So it's definitely, a bit of an interesting one there. He is only averaging 5.5 minutes. But when it comes to the Los Angeles Lakers, they do have themselves a matchup against the Portland Trail Blazers. So it is definitely going to be an exciting game for sure. But when it comes to the Portland Trail Blazers and the matchup between the Lakers, now looking at both of these teams, starting off with the Los Angeles Lakers, the Lakers have, congrats in saying this, have actually, clinched the third spot in the NBA playoffs for the Western Conference. So they are solidified there. So it is a big, season for them. They have clinched that third spot. And they do and are still waiting for their playoff matchup, as some of the other teams are still playing. But when we look at the Portland Trailblazers are in a little bit of a different situation, because Trailblazers do rank 12th in the Western Conference and also have a record of 35-46. So very, very different record there. When we look at both of these teams, obviously looking at both, we do see that Trailblazers have pretty much have solidified that they aren't making the playoffs. It's over for them. They are just going to play this game out. But when it comes to the Lakers, since they have already clinched that spot, a lot of the Lakers players are taking a rest. And for that reason, we definitely could see someone like Bronny James have a little bit more usage rate out there. Now, looking at the Portland Trail Blazers, they do rank 21st in points allowed. On top of that, they also rank when it comes to assists allowed. They do rank actually a little bit better at 13th. And then rebounds allowed, the Portland Trailblazers also rank pretty poorly as they rank 19th. So it is a bit of an interesting one there. Obviously, Bronny James, his line as it comes out, they are definitely going to calculate it to where they think he will be, but we still definitely see Bronny James being able to go over on his line. So for that reason, we are expecting Bronny James to get a little bit more usage rate out there, than he is used to. Like I mentioned, he does average only 5.5 minutes, but we should definitely see a different story there. Well, we have seen Bronny James get a little bit more minutes than, 5 to 10 minutes. We definitely have seen him do a fantastic job. A big reason for that is that they did play against Milwaukee recently. He did have 30 minutes in that game and still had 17 points in that matchup, 5 assists and 3 rebounds. So he did a fantastic job there, and we are expecting a similar situation coming into this next game. Now, both Portland and Lakers are pretty fast-paced teams, so we are expecting a good amount of pace from both of them in that sense. But on top of that, when we also do look at the Lakers, we are looking at a lot of the players being out when it comes to their star players. LeBron is expected to not play. Luke is expected not to play. Austin Reeves is expected not to play. The list really does go on and on. Pretty much the whole starting five is out for this game. So, it is definitely a smart move to make as a Lakers, coaching staff, rest their star players, get them ready for the playoffs. But on top of that, we should see someone like Bronny get a little bit more usage rate because of their stars resting. So for that reason, keep an eye out for the over. I think Bronny James definitely has a good usage rate in all three departments, so there really isn't one I would focus on. So just definitely keep an eye out for the line and definitely look to go on the over, if it definitely does work out that you see that, he has the capability to go on the over there. Like I said, it is hard to look at the averages because he does only average 5 minutes. So we should see a different sort of, line come out for him. Now, getting into the next player, we're going to be talking about Pat Connaughton. So Pat Connaughton, great player from none other than the actual Milwaukee Bucks. Now, he's done a fantastic job so far this season as well. He has taken a little bit of a backseat when it comes to his role for this team, but still overall great player. Now, when it comes to the Milwaukee Bucks, they are facing off against the Detroit Pistons in this next matchup, and it is a back-to-back, sort of matchup. They did most recently play Detroit, and they are playing them again to actually finalize the actual, season. So it is going to be a big game there. Now, looking at both of these teams, when we actually look at Milwaukee Bucks and Pistons, looking at both of where they are standing, we do see Milwaukee Bucks do rank 5th in the Eastern Conference. Now, they have already solidified their spot there, so whether they win or lose this game, it is not changing one bit. So they congratulate that to them to making the playoffs, but they have already solidified the 5th spot. And then Detroit, on the other hand, are the same story. Detroit have solidified the 6th spot, so they are in the playoffs. So where they win or lose this game doesn't really matter. Now, when we look at Pat Connaughton, obviously he does play for the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, so far this season, he is only averaging 14 minutes per game. So very, very much less than what he's used to. For his career, he was averaging 19 minutes. So he's definitely taken a bit of a back seat. Now, they do face off against Detroit Pistons. And looking at Detroit, we do see Detroit Pistons do rank when it comes to points allowed. Surprisingly, Detroit do rank pretty decently, as they actually rank 14th. Moving on to assists allowed, we see that they rank 5th, and then rebounds allowed, we also see them rank 7th. So for that reason, we do very much like the under for someone like Pat Connaughton here. Although we are expecting an increase in Connaughton's usage rate, due to the fact that Milwaukee Bucks are going to be resting their stars. As for right now, pretty much their whole starting 5 is out. Kyle Kuzma's out, Giannis is out, Lopez is out. List really does go on and on. And although Connaughton is going to be out there on the floor, we are expecting still the under, as Detroit Pistons are still a great defensive team, even if it is just their role players playing in this next matchup. When you also look at Detroit Pistons, a big reason for the under is also due to the fact that Detroit Pistons are such a slow-paced team. They've done this all season, and they do a fantastic job at also slowing down faster-paced teams as well. So we should see that happen with a team like the Milwaukee Bucks. So we are expecting definitely a different outcome from, the Milwaukee Bucks and the Pistons matchup, a more slower pace type matchup, which can definitely affect Connaughton's usage rate out there. Now, looking at Connaughton over the last 5 games, he's definitely had some pretty, low performing games. He had 2 points, 2 assists, and also 2 rebounds against Philly. Another matchup at 5 points, 1 assist, 0 sort of rebounds. And then on top of that, also had another matchup where he had 6 points, 3 assists, 1 rebound. So obviously, like I mentioned before, he doesn't really get too much minutes out there, but when he does get a little bit more minutes, like which we just mentioned against Atlanta, where he had 18, he still doesn't really have that high of a usage rate. And we definitely see that continuing on into this next game, especially against a great defensive team like the Detroit Pistons. So for that reason, I definitely would keep an eye out for the under for this situation here for someone like Pat Connaughton. Now, getting into the next player, we're going to be talking about Josh Okogie. So you probably have heard of Josh Okogie before, great player from the Charlotte Hornets. Now, he's done a fantastic job all season, but when it comes to the Charlotte Hornets, they do actually have themselves a great matchup against the Boston Celtics. Now, looking at the Boston Celtics and also Charlotte Hornets, starting off with Charlotte do rank 14th in the Eastern Conference with a record of 19-62. So they do have a fantastic record there. Like I mentioned, they do rank 14th, so they have already solidified that they aren't going to make the playoffs. There's nothing they can really do. They are pretty much just playing this season out. And even if they lose and they are looking to tank, it doesn't really change their position. They still are going to stay at 14th. Now, looking on the other side, however, Charlotte Hornets face off against Boston. Boston are in a different situation, but also similar, as in their spot has been already solidified. They are going to be second in the Eastern Conference. Win or lose this game does not change it one bit. So that's a bit of an interesting one there when it actually comes, to the Boston Celtics as well. Now, when we also look at both of these teams, obviously, Charlotte Hornets have already solidified. Celtics have already solidified. So Celtics most likely are not going to be playing their players. As of right now, it is expected, all their starters are not going to be playing in this game. Charlotte Hornets, also similar situation. A lot of players are out for the season, and Josh Okogie could see an increase in his usage rate coming into this game. Now, looking at Charlotte and also the Celtics matchup, looking at where Celtics do, defend, Celtics do rank second in points allowed, third in assists allowed, and then rebounds allowed. They also do rank 11th. So we still do very much like the under for this situation here. Although Okogie is a great player and he should see an increase in his usage rate, we don't really see it affecting it too much, as we still do like the under due to the fact that when it actually comes to this, Boston Celtics team, they are still a great defensive team, whether it's their bench or even whether it's their starters. starters. So we don't really see it affecting it too much, which is why we still do like the under for this one. Now, when we look at someone, like Josh Okogie and also his last 5 games, he has had some pretty big games. He is coming off a game where he had 10 points, 2 assists, 5 rebounds against Boston. So yes, he did a pretty decent job there. Another matchup against Memphis where he had 12 points, 1 assist, 2 rebounds. So definitely interesting there. But like I mentioned, the reason why we still are liking the under, even though he did have a pretty decent game against Boston, is that when it comes to the Charlotte Hornets, they are definitely in a situation where Josh Okogie, he is still a great role player. We could see him just get taken off early as well. So, the last game of the season, especially for teams like this, we tend to see them not really play too hard due to the fact that, the season is pretty much over. And for that reason, we aren't really expecting too much motive out there. The Charlotte Hornets are probably just going to get a run and then just go on about their day. So, unfortunately, that is how it is. I know it is a bit of a boring thing to say that, but like I mentioned, none of these teams are really having any focus on this game. They are just trying to finish out the season and move on to the playoffs. But for the Charlotte Hornets, they are just trying to move on and get ready for the draft. So that's how we see this game actually going about. Now, getting into the next player, we're going to be talking about Alex Sarr. So, as we all know, Alex Sarr, great player, was actually the number 2 pick in the 2024 draft. Alex Sarr does play for the Washington Wizards, and so far this season, he's been averaging 13 points, ranking him 85th, 6.5 rebounds, ranking him 41st, 2.4 assists, ranking him 106th, and then 39.3% from the field, ranking him 114th. So he has done a fantastic job for none other than the actual, Washington Wizards. And now the Washington Wizards do have themselves a great matchup against none other than the Miami Heat. Now, looking at both of these teams, you do see a little bit of a different, scenario between both of them. Obviously, when we look at, the Washington Wizards, we do see that Washington Wizards do rank very, very low. They rank 15th in the actual, Eastern Conference with a record of 17-64. So it is pretty much over for them, and we all pretty much known that for some time now. Now, when we look at a roster the new roster of Miami Heat, who do now or have lost Jimmy Butler and have replaced with Andrew Wiggins, it's definitely been a very, very different outcome for them. But they currently rank 10th in the Eastern Conference with a record of 37 and also 44. So very different record there. Now, when it actually comes to this matchup, obviously both of the teams have already solidified their spot. Miami Heat have made the actual, playoffs or play-ins at that sense. And then on top of that, when you also look on the other side of things, you also do see Wizards are going to take that 15th spot. They aren't going to go any higher, and they can't really go any lower because, they are last in the Eastern Conference. So, win or lose these matchups, it doesn't really mean too much for this team. It's definitely going to be, just one of those games where a lot of the young stars like Alex Sarr may just get a little bit more usage rate coming into this game. So we definitely see that being a big thing coming into this matchup, no doubt about it. Now, looking at also Miami Heat facing off against Washington Wizards, looking at Miami Heat, we do see that the Heat do rank 7th in points allowed. They also rank, when it actually comes to assists allowed, they also rank 15th, and then rebounds allowed, we also see them rank 19th. So they do rank pretty high in all 3 categories. However, that is looking at the season. And when you actually see, obviously, they did lose Jimmy Butler. They are a very much different team. They actually were higher ranking with Jimmy Butler than they are now. And they have actually fallen in all 3 of the categories, points, rebounds, and assists, to the bottom 15 or the bottom half of all 30 teams. So for that reason, we are expecting this team to have a little bit worse defense than we were used to throughout the whole season. And that's why we still see someone like Alex Sarr going on the over in this one. On top of that, when it comes to Alex Sarr and the Washington Wizards, he is one of the only few starters that is going to be playing in this game. A lot of the other starters are going to be resting. I think that's just how the NBA likes to run it, or how coaching staffs like to run it. So a lot of the other stars, even though it doesn't really matter whether they win or lose and they aren't making the playoffs, they are still going to rest them. So you are expecting Alex Sarr to have a little bit more usage rate than usual. Now, looking at the last 5 games that he has played, we definitely have seen something very similar to that. He is coming off a game where he had 7 points, 3 assists, and 3 rebounds, but he's had some big games. He's had a game where he had 20 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists, which was huge there. Another matchup where he had 16 points, 2 assists, 4 rebounds. Another matchup where he had 10 points, 6 assists, and 6 rebounds as well. So He has done a fantastic job all season, but when it comes to Sarr, we should see an increase in his usage rate coming into this next matchup, which should lead to the over for this one.